And so all of my academic work was really focused on how do I help myself and other people who are impacted by the prison system stay out. And so in order to be a conduit and a good steward, I had to work on myself. I had to stay out of prison because one of the things I wanted to do from the time I was incarcerated was use my life as an example to other people that you can change your life and you don't have to come back to prison. Yeah, it may be hard, because of whatever you've gone through, but you don't have to make these kind of decisions that'll bring you back. And so that's really been my whole mission, bro. Is to be an example to people and to lead people out of prison. I love you, Daddy.
This is For Fathers, a podcast for fathers to uplift and encourage each other with the understanding that we are the forefathers of the next generation. This is episode 106. I'm eloQuint, and today we got author, podcaster, father, Dr. Craig Waleed, man. Tell everybody what's up.
Yo, what it do? What it do? What it do? Happy to be here with you, nephew EQ.
You already know, man. Hey, it's a blessing to have you back on the podcast. For all I don't know, my uncle and doing real big things and had a lot of influence on me in fatherhood and just growing up. I remember you calling me when I was in college playing basketball, just encouraging me to hoop and do my thing. So you always been there, always been around, finally in North Carolina. So we could see each other more. So life is good. Right. Now I could do the same thing for my cousin Issa, who hooping and stuff like that. So kind of giving that. It's kind of full circle. I thought about that. It's kind of full circle, ain't it?
It is. It is. And that's why we have families. Families are supposed to keep certain things alive, and build on them. So it becomes full circle. And the circle just gets higher with each generation because we keep building on it.
Because he sure has the potential to go further than anybody's went in basketball. Like
I think
the way he at now, like the way he's at now, he's only he's 13 now, 14.
Just turned 13, man.
Yeah, just turned 13, right? Yeah. So hey, what? Hey, right. I tell you, when I worked him out the other day, or a couple months ago, I was like, man, I didn't know you got a lot better. What were you doing? So I'm excited to see what he's gonna do with that.
He just needs to I think build up that attitude, that confidence, that grit. And what I found with him and a lot of kids on his teams is they don't have that grit, that hustle, that killer instinct. And a lot of times I think that's just because of how they come up, living in a suburban house, 2 cars, refrigerator full of food, almost anything you want, you can get. They ain't got no struggle, so don't have that killer in them.
Right, and that's interesting, right? It's interesting how there are some outliers. Like Steph Curry grew up like that, right? His dad was an NBA player, but he still got that killer instinct. But there's a lot. It seems like a lot to do how you grow up. Whether you grow up with that killer or is something that you have to learn over time, which is something I had to learn over time because I grew up that same way. But I know my dad came from a different background, more similar to yours, so that he provided for us to live that way. So I didn't have to live that way. And that's what you're doing for your son as well. So it is very interesting and intriguing how that really plays a factor into even not just sports, but anything.
Everything. Yeah. Your background, where you come from helps shape your future in some regards, But, I think life circumstances can also, as we mature, life circumstances can infuse us with that grit, can infuse us with that that energy, that hate, or whatever it is that drives people, But I think, as we go on, experiences continue to impact us, but nothing like those first 5 years of our life.
Man, it's fundamental. What do they call it? Was it transformative years or one? I forget exactly the term they use, but where they can be easily be molded. Those first five,
Yeah.
right?
Right. It's not transformative. I can't think of the term right now, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
And that's why it's so important for us as fathers, right? To especially be there in those first five and whatever that case may look like. I know we both, as we talked about before, man, sometimes it was a little hard for us in that on those first 5 years or even years after that.
Yeah.
But we have to you gotta fight through that, mug, I tell you.
Absolutely, man. It's important, I think, for fathers or parents in general, but since we're talking about fathers, let's just be father specific. And I think that it's important for us to do the best that we can to be as healthy as we can so that we can give our children the best that we can give them. And when I talk about health, not just physical health, but also psychological and emotional health. And so I think a lot of that means to or is rooted in understanding who I am as an individual, and not buying into the hype of all these things that are, I guess, for lack of a better term, a reflection of toxic masculinity. That hurts everyone who's connected to the father or the man or whoever's trying to display their misunderstanding, I guess, of what it means.
It is
to
a
be
misunderstanding.
masculine.
Yeah, I was listening to this podcast actually yesterday. It's crazy how you brought that up. I just a dude named Jason Wilson. Like, I don't know, he had a popular video of him on one knee doing martial arts and telling this boy that it was okay to cry. I don't know if you ever seen that video or not. But
to do with all the beard.
Yeah. So he talks about that kind of stuff, man. And he was talking about how there's no such thing as an alpha male. That's something that culture created. That's
true.
Really what manhood is, and defining manhood. But you said something key, is that identity. Like, what is your identity in for you to be a man? Because growing up, it's like, yeah, you gotta have the girls, you gotta have the cars, you gotta have all that kind of stuff. When you get all right into older ages, like, man, that ain't manhood.
Yo, man, I remember growing up, and me and a guy were talking about this a couple weeks ago. I was out in Charlotte rapping with this brother I know. We were talking just about that, how growing up, the big thing was, how many girlfriends you got, and that was a big thing versus, what's your grades or, who respects you and who do you respect? We were always given this messed up stuff. And some of us buy into it more than others, but it definitely sends us on the wrong path, the wrong trajectory. And it takes a long time sometimes for us to get back to where we belong, to get on track because of all these misdirected notions of masculinity and boyhood.
I mean, think about how many years that we have those thoughts, and then you try to turn it around. In the first 2 years, you're trying to be in it, but it's like, man, I can't get this off me. I still got this lust problem, and this I want to get a next girl problem. Like, she not good now. I see another one on the street. I need to go get that. Like, like how many years we infiltrate our mind with that, and now we're trying to just shake it off when we get married or when we start having daughters. It's like, oh man, it becomes difficult.
And it's interesting you say that, and some of it I think is human condition. Like, I'll quote, like, there's a portion of the Bible that says something to the effect that the lust of the flesh is weak. And so as humans, we always want more. I don't care who we are. We always want more. We want more sugar. We want more money. We want bigger cars, bigger house, whatever. We want more. But I think that's a challenge in being a human being. But then, as being a young man or a boy or whatever, we tend to want more of those things that we think we've been conditioned to believe makes us more of a boy or more of a man. And that big thing is women or girls or money or cars. And me and the brother were talking the other day, and I was, both of us, we're going back and forth about what is it, like, at what point did we realize that this thing that we were given about boyhood masculinity was the wrong messages. And I think it wasn't until I was like in prison, at like 19 or 20 years old, that I really started to think about all the messaging that I had consumed that really led me to this point in my life, which was prison. None of us need that. because I mean, we're much more than the toxicity, and we're much more than the the muscles or the force and all of that. And as I've gotten older, man, I'll be 55 in August, but I think like in the last 10 years or so, I've been trying to be more nurturing, man, more patient, more kind, man. But one of the things I still think I struggle with, Q, and many men who might hear this might agree with it. And one of the things I still struggle with is not sexualizing women.
Bro, what?
I see a woman, man, and the first thing I do, man, is I look at her shape, and I get these lustful thoughts, and then I have to check myself, man. I'm like, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's woman.
Mhm.
Plus, I got daughter, and I got a woman, I got sisters and mother, and all of that, and I don't need to be looking at people like this. It's not respectful to them or me. But I'm a victim of how I've been conditioned. But at the same time, I take time to try to catch myself. And I asked a homeboy once before, I said, how do you learn to not sexualize women? And he was like, man, I don't know. I keep struggling with
Yeah.
it, you know?
Yeah. And even me walking with Christ, and it's the Spirit works and lives in through us and purifies us. And I still like, dang man, I thought I was walking with Christ. I still want that girl. I still looking that way, and newly married and all that stuff. And it's still a forefront thought. Not to the point where you're going, like you said, like I'm sure you agree that it's not gonna take action. I'm not about to do anything. But still, the thoughts there, the eyes are there. I just want to close my eyes or look down or hold my breath because I don't want nobody to smell. Just whatever your triggers are. I swear, I hold my breath real quick. Whatever the triggers are. So it is, man. It's something that lust. Like you were saying earlier, the Bible talks about the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. I think that's what you're trying to refer to. So, your spirit might be willing, but that flesh, that body, that craving for more, like you said, it's just
that's that human condition.
It's human, bro. It's human, and it is tough, especially when you got daughters. And I think that's what changed my mind when I started having daughters, and realized like this ain't it. What if somebody did that to my daughter? Man, I've been doing this whole time. Like, it make you think about that. And I think also heartbreak too had me reshape my mind too. You get your heart broken. It's like, I've been doing this the whole time. I didn't know it felt like this. I didn't know it felt like this. So those are two things right there that kind of, turn me away and make me start to realize like, man, maybe what I've been doing is not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I think time teaches us that, heartbreak, pain, loss, and then just maturity, man. I think all of that plays a role into it, but experience definitely teaches us what we need to do and what we need not to do. So thinking about some of the old timers I was around coming up, one of the things I often heard was just keep laying down and getting up, son. Just keep going to sleep and waking up. Just keep living, and you'll get those lessons as long as you're looking for it. But I think for some people, it's not even on their radar. That I'm doing something that's not, scrupulous or something that's not on the up and up. And so they continue to, grown men my age with gray hair, and older, still trying to chase women down, still trying to chase girls down. It's like, come on, man. Don't you got something more to do?
Right.
One experience is just about the same as the next one. It's more about the connection with the person anyway.
But think about being in that cycle that long too. Like, what kind of mindset you're in? Like, we talk about manhood and being in a different mindset, or growing mentally. Like, you still in that as in your 60s and your 70s, you still doing that? Like, where was the growth at? Like, was there no direction, no discipleship, nothing? Like,
what comes to my mind is stagnant.
Stagnant, yeah.
Stagnant. And yeah, maybe there was some opportunity. There's always opportunity for mentorship, discipleship, opportunities to grow. But in order to do that stuff, man, you have to be willing to endure some discomfort. And we're human, and humans don't like to be uncomfortable. And so what does it look like for me to grow, man? I'm comfortable right here, man, chasing booty, talking about girls or whatever it is that's keeping me stagnant. So I ain't growing. I think that's what happens with a lot of men. But then I think life gonna make you grow anyway to some degree.
Yeah.
Life
Yeah.
gonna make, like my man Hector used to say in the penitentiary, you gonna learn. Life gonna make you learn.
Like you said, you got to be open to it though, because some people make the same mistake over and over again. I guess that's what we
Yeah,
call insane, right?
yeah. But when you open to it, then you grow exponentially,
Hmm.
and you grow beyond what you probably could ever imagine. But yeah, being open is definitely going to accelerate growth. And once we are not open, I think definitely our potential to grow is stagnated and stymied.
Right. And so you talked about how in prison you changed your perspective and stuff, and I think you told me before you started reading books more and stuff like that. So what really had you grow exponentially? Like, was it the books? Was it just being there and having to think? Like, how'd you start in the trajectory in the way that you in now that we want to get into?
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I appreciate that question. And I'll tell you, nephew, it's never just one thing. I think everything is a combination of a multiplicity of things. And so for me, I've always been a prolific reader since I can remember. My sister Joyce, your aunt Joyce, she influenced me to read even before I could read because she was always reading, and so I was always around her. Um, but once I was inside the penitentiary, man, one of the things is the penitentiary hurts, man. It's a psychological, emotional pain that is unlike any other. And if somebody says it doesn't hurt, um, maybe they're crazy or they're insane. But that pain, when we encounter pain, we're forced to look for alternatives. And I needed to get away from the pain. And so I had to ask myself, well, what caused me to be in the penitentiary? It wasn't just because I hurt somebody. It was something that was going on in my cognitive space. So I had to really do a serious cognitive inventory and be willing and open to feedback, my own feedback and the feedback from other people. So doing that inventory is what it started, man. But then reading certain books about people and about change and about wellness and about health, um, I think those things also helped, man. And then just wanting more for my life, man. Because while I was in the penitentiary, I talked to so many people who, had stories of being in and out of group homes and institutions and penitentiary most of their life. And I'm like, I know I have more potential, same as those people, but maybe they didn't know they had the potential. But I knew I had more potential than just to waste away in prison. So I wanted to do whatever I could to metaphorically sharpen my tool, so that when I got out, my tool would be sharp and I'd be able to engage in whatever it is I wanted to engage in. Hence, I've been out of penitentiary 25, almost 26 years, and I've been engaging in almost anything I want to engage in at this point. All because of that pain. The pain pushed me here, man. You know.
Right. And talk about that process, because I like you said, humans want to be comfortable, and men. It's statistically proven that men don't want to grow, or they don't look to grow. So how
Mhm.
was that process? Was it just immediate? Like after you got in, you started figuring it out. Like how was it a tug and pull? I know for me it was a
Mhm.
struggle sometimes just to
Mhm.
get to where I am now, because I just couldn't get out
Mhm.
of my own mindset. Because like you said, we've been conditioned one way. So how was that
Yeah.
process for you?
Yeah, man. It was. I wouldn't say it was automatic, but I wouldn't say it was a tug and pull or push and pull situation either. Because again, that pain, man, I needed to get away from that pain. Even though I was living in the penitentiary, I realized that it was my thinking that got me there. It was that thinking that took me away from my daughter because my daughter was 10 months old when I went to the penitentiary, and now I don't have a relationship with her 25 years later after getting out of the penitentiary. She's like 33, 34 years old. We don't know each other, but it was that pain, that loss, man. And so it was gradual because initially I just knew I needed to get away. I couldn't get out of prison, but I could get out of my way. I could change the way I was thinking. And so I had to really painstakingly um, sift through the events of my life um, that helped shape my thinking to the point where I thought it was okay to hurt people and take from people. And then I had to painstakingly confront myself. And then I had to engage in exercises to help reverse that thinking, and part of that was uh, finding good people to talk with inside the penitentiary who were also on that same journey. Um, and then, yeah, it was about protecting my ears and eyes against what I see and hear, because what I
Mhm.
see and hear shapes how I think. And I realized that my thinking wasn't that healthy. So I'm like, what can I put into my head to make my thinking more healthy? And this is a perpetual, lifelong process. Because as we talked about, with sexualizing women, that thing is always there. And if I'm not fighting to check it, then I'll end up wrecked. In many regards, like DOS Effects, the old hip hop group used to say, "Chickadee, check yourself before you riggedy wreck yourself." And so, I have to check myself. But that's the thing: wanting to be aware, working on awareness, versus just sleepwalking.
Yeah, I mean, you even put out some biblical principles out there, protecting your ears and eye gates. And I don't know if you even know that. Just
Mhm.
having the mind of Christ, because that's really what's really going to save us. Because there's a term that's out there that's called totally depraved. Like we're just destined for evil unless Christ comes in, unless we change our mindset to go for good. Because you don't teach a kid to lie, you don't teach a kid to steal. Don't
Mm-mm.
They're just natural. We just do that kind of stuff. We just be bad, if you will. So we
Mhm.
have to really protect and then pour in to our vessel what we wanted to come out. And that's what
Absolutely.
happens with you. And that's what led you to your doctorate. So in that, was it when you were in prison that you decided to get that? Was it when you got out? I know you've been doing this process, so what made you like, "Okay, I'm about to go defeat the odds and go get my
Yeah.
doctorate."
Well, again, man, it was the pain of being in prison, and I remember reading a research paper or something that says people who are proficient in vocational and academic trades have a reduced chance of recidivating or returning to prison. And so I didn't want to come back to prison once I got out. So I went to school because I figured if I go to school, that's going to increase my chances of not coming back to prison. But when I started out, I wasn't thinking about getting a doctorate degree. I just figured, let me get this associate's degree because this is some good exercise. It's mental calisthenics. And it helps me to focus on something other than the penitentiary. But what it did is it began to metaphorically till the soil of my consciousness, and it turned it over, and so it allowed me to be more receptive to different and new information that could help change the direction that I was going in my life. But I also began to admire the professors who were coming in to teach, and they became heroes to me on the low. And I used to say to myself, I want to be like one of these people. I like what they're doing. And then so when I got out, man, I went back to school. I got out in 19 shoot, what was that, like 1997? I got out of the penitentiary, and by 1999, I was enrolled in a SUNY Institute or SUNY Brockport College, man. Pursuing my bachelor's, and again pursuing my bachelor's. I'm one of the older students, so I start really vibing with the professors. And all along, I'm thinking I love being in this environment, and I'm just as smart as these professors. So I'm like, why don't I have a doctorate? I might as well get one. Plus, what I studied, man. Though my doctorate's like in education, um, my research looked at the impact of emotional intelligence on helping formerly incarcerated people avoid recidivism. And so all of my academic work was really focused on how do I help myself and other people who are impacted by the prison system stay out. And so, in order to be a conduit and a good steward, I had to work on myself. I had to stay out of prison because one of the things I wanted to do from the time I was incarcerated was use my life as an example to other people that you can change your life and you don't have to come back to prison. Yeah, it may be hard, because of whatever you've gone through, but you don't have to make these kind of decisions that'll bring you back. And so that's really been um my whole mission, bro. is to be an example to people and to lead people out of prison. My man Talib Kweli, one of the rappers from the old school, he's still putting it down, but the brother said something in one of his songs. He said, "I'm I'm I'm speaking to the people who are outside of the reach of the church and the ministers." Because those are the people that I need to reach. Because not everybody's going to a church or a temple or a mosque or something like that. Not everybody's going to turn to religion, but everybody can be saved. Everybody can find their way out of the dark places that they've been in their life. And so I want to be a light and do just that for those people who are not finding themselves inside these institutions that we go to for worship.
Ain't it crazy what pain and exposure will do? Like pain and exposure will lead you to your purpose. And as you was talking, that's what I hear. The pain of the prison and then the exposure that you had with your professors led you to exactly where you are right now. And
Y equals
I
self.
think, yeah. I think a lot of people need to not always look at the things they've done in the past and and just look down on themselves, but use it for good. Use it to expose others into what they can do.
Right. Because I mean, there was a study. I can't remember where it comes from. I think it came out of psychology. Maybe I learned it in one of my psych classes. But there was a doctor who said something to the effect that, or maybe he took people like young kids, or maybe it was a theory. But you give me kids from anywhere, and I can make them into what I want them to be. I can make them doctors. I can make them lawyers. I can make them thieves. I can make them drug addicts, whatever, because of whatever I exposed them to in their formative years.
There's the word
So,
formative. That's what we were looking for earlier.
yeah,
There's the
formative
word.
yeah. I knew it'd come up, but yeah, man. So I think that exposure, what you're exposed to, it can definitely impact the way that you think about yourself and impact the path that you choose for this life. I was thinking about one of my son's friends. His father used to be a music producer, and now this young kid, he's 13, he's producing music. He's doing what his father did. I mean, you were an avid ball player. Let's see, was your dad an avid ball player? Yes, I think so. So it's exposure. What you've been exposed to, it impacts you on many levels.
Right. So what have you done, and what is your plan? I know they're teenagers now, but of exposing your sons. What did you have anything specific that you wanted to, or just wanted an array of things? Like, how'd you go about that?
Yeah, great question, man. And I wanted my sons to be whoever they were going to be. And my aim has been and still is to expose them to as much as I can in whatever field that they're interested in. So like my oldest son, Ismail, he's been an academic since he could read or write,
Pardon me.
I learn from him every day. Sometimes I learn too much from him. I'm like, yo, man, you gotta be quiet. You're overloading me, But he wanted to learn about animals. So what did we do, my wife and I? We took every opportunity we could to help him become academically enriched and have opportunities to learn about animals and science and so on and so forth. And so what is he doing now? He's a first-year junior at NC State studying animal science, only because I was trying my best to expose him to that which interested him, not so much what interested me, And then same with Issa. Issa Muhammad is brilliant, but he don't like going to school. He don't like sitting still, but he's smart. He's smart as heck. But what he loves is he loves playing ball. So what do? We invest in ball. Because as you and I know, sports leads us into bigger arenas, and it teaches us a whole lot about this life. Even if he doesn't become a professional athlete, he'll become a great team player in whatever profession he falls into. He'll become a great friend. He'll become a great ally, because he's becoming such a great team player on the game. And he's dedicated. He's dedicated to his craft. And so that type of dedication to his sports will transition over to whatever else he chooses to dedicate himself to. So
that work ethic.
Yeah, that work ethic. Absolutely. That study and work ethic. And he studies the game and he works out without me saying, yo, man, you got to work out. Yo, man, it's time. No, he's like, yo, dad, can we go to the gym at 5 in the morning? Yo, dad, I need to go here. And I'm just like, let's do it. Let's get it. So, yeah, it's about, I think, just helping children figure out who they want to be or helping them identify what their proclivities are, what their gifts are, what their talents are, and just helping them to manifest those things about themselves.
It's very, very important because if when we start putting our own ideas of what we think they should be, then they start to pull away and start going to adverse ways. My
Absolutely.
oldest now through marriage, we just got her a piano because she loves music. Her dad's a musician, and
There you go.
even though he's a military, so he wasn't always like in the house, but even though he wasn't, he's still that
Hmm.
tendency, that bloodline.
Hmm.
And she's natural. I mean, she's just be getting it. I'm
Hmm.
excited for her to go with him over the summer so she could learn a little bit more. So she could teach us a little something, something. Because I love me some piano, some jazz music. I
Oh
love
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah.
And then my youngest that lives with me, she's gymnast. She loves gymnastics, flipping off stuff, jumping off
Hmm.
stuff, just a
Hmm.
daredevil. So, like you
Yeah.
said, just really cultivating that in them. That's
Hmm.
very, very important.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's my goal too. Just really expose them
Yeah.
to that and expose them to Christ, expose them to everything that's going to build them up
Hmm.
and keep them away from the evils of this world, if you will, the things that are going to, but even if we tried to, they still gonna find it because my parents they sure
Yeah.
tried to, but I still found it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
found all of it.
But the thing is though, Q, the difference though is that they also invested some stuff in you. They instilled some
Mhm.
stuff in you. And so what my mom used to always do, again, here we go with some Bible quotes, which is raise a child in the way that you would have them to grow so that when they get
Mhm.
older, they will not depart. And so whatever
Amen.
whatever way you went, whatever way I went, other people went, when our parents invest in us, if we survive all the madness, we always come back to what they gave us. You know,
Mhm. The
I remember being
foundation
in
you.
yeah, 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 that foundation. I remember being in the penitentiary and sometimes guys would say to me, man, like, what are you doing here? You seem like you come from a good background, a good family, like somebody worked with you, you know? And so when people work with you, your kids will come back. Just let them survive. That's the whole thing. They got to survive.
Mhm. And sometimes it's hard as a parent to let them go because sometimes you gotta let them bump their head a couple of times. If you keep saving
Yeah,
them, they'll never learn, and then
that's
and
true,
that's
bro.
hard.
That's true. That's true. Because sometimes I find myself just talking too much because I don't want to see my kids hurting. But I know that's
Mhm.
that's the only way they're gonna learn. They gotta bump their head,
Right.
and I just pray they survive.
Like you said, experience, right? Experience
Yeah,
that teacher.
that's the best teacher, yo. It's the best teacher. And so even like with this thing that we're talking about, kind of peripherally, but at the center of our meeting here, which is fatherhood.
Mm.
Some of us had fathers in our lives, like you had a father in your life, but still, and me, I didn't have a father in my life, but the practice of being a father, no matter what, we only really learn it from being on the job, no matter what we saw and didn't
Amen.
see, so it's that, yeah,
It's one of them things that don't got no blueprint. Hey, it don't have a blueprint. You got to figure it out because every kid's different. I could try to take what you do with Isa, and it ain't gonna work for Amara. So I mean, you got to figure it out.
absolutely, absolutely. Everyone is different, and that's the bugged out thing. But the beautiful thing about being human, we all the same, but we so different.
Hmm.
We all are exactly the same, but we're so different. That's a dichotomy in and of itself.
Yeah, I love the uniqueness though. I really do.
Mhm,
I think
mhm,
it's interesting. I
mhm,
find it fascinating. I go to a new place I've never been before. People have been living their
mhm,
life just like I've been living
mhm,
my life, and we
mhm,
just so happen
mhm.
to cross paths. I think that thing is so amazing. Then you just
It
see
is.
everybody looking the same. I remember when I went to Germany.
Mhm,
I was like, I want to see aliens over there. Like, 'cause you go in a different place. Like, what's it gonna look like?
mhm,
I'm being facetious, but just like what I'm gonna see over there. But everybody looks the same. Everybody's not talking the same. They just have different accents, different
mhm,
languages.
mhm, mhm.
And then when we see each other as humans, man, I think a lot more, a lot more good to be in this world, a lot more peace. If
Right,
everybody's like,
right.
you just a human, just like me. We just look different. We come from different backgrounds. Like we are talking about before the podcast, we just our different cultural backgrounds when it even comes to fatherhood. Just understand that everything looks different.
Yeah,
And you
but
can't compare
it's the same though.
Mm-hmm.
It looks different, but it's the same. Like somebody asked me once, they were like, "Your wife's from where?" She's from Pakistan. What do they eat? I'm like, bruh, they eat the same thing you eat: chicken, beef, fish, bread, rice. They just cook it different, season it different, but it's the same thing. So that's how I see this life. We eating the same stuff. We just seasoning it different. We cooking it different.
I like that. That's good right there. It is, man. It is. Everything's a parallel.
It is. Nothing is separate from others. Everything is connected somehow. Everything is parallel to something else in existence. You're absolutely right, nephew.
Right. And we was talking before the podcast how I've been talking recently because I'm just married. And recently of this blended family life, man. This blended family life. And we was talking, I know you was doing that for a while, early on in marriage and throughout. So for me, man, I'm trying to figure it out. Like I'm type struggling a little bit. I was joking on another podcast. I feel like I'm about to get a pink slip. Like I feel like I'm not doing it right. How is your experience with that? This
It's
blended
like
family.
I don't think there's a wrong way. Well, maybe there's a wrong way or a right way. Maybe, yeah, for me, man, I just found that I'm trying to be the best person I can be without being selfish.
Mhm.
And in doing that, I was able to, I think, I mean, you have to talk to these young adults now who are no longer kids, who are my stepchildren who are in the house with me. But I think just trying to respect them as individuals, man, and treating them like I would want to be treated, you know, be they young people or not, be they my biologicals or not. If you're in the house with me, if we living together, I'm gonna look out for you, and not just look out for you. I'm gonna love you the way I want to be loved. I'm gonna take care of you the way I want to be taken care of. You know, but the wonderful thing about my situation is that my stepkids, we had, as I shared with you earlier, we had shared custody, so they weren't always in the house with me. There were weeks when they weren't there because they were home with their biological dad. But when they were with me, I tried to give them the lessons that I thought they needed on the spot or in the moment. Yeah, I watch out for them, give them right, whatever a father would do or an adult would do in a child's life. I did it, and there was no partiality. You know, and so to
Did you
this
find
day,
yourself trying?
go ahead.
Did you find yourself not trying to step on toes, like on their biological dad's toes? Like, was it easier for you to step back, or like, oh man, you should do this, or like, how was that?
Nah, man, I never found myself trying not to step on son's toes, but never trying to violate him either. But I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot had to do with who he is as a person. Um, this dude's cool. I mean, he's still around. He's still kicking up dust, but he never gave me any flack, though. Coming from where I come from, often the ex and the new spouse or the new partner typically have some sort of friction, especially if there's another child in there. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was expecting. I'm like, okay, me and him, we're gonna have to duke it out. We're gonna have to, hurl insults at each other. But no, it was nothing like that. He was like, hey man, and every time I saw him, he was like, hey man, how are you? And we didn't have a whole lot of engagement, but it was always peace, always
Mm-hmm.
respectful. So I think that helped make things a lot easier too,
Yeah,
you know. And then I
yeah.
wasn't abusing his children. I wasn't saying bull crap. I wasn't saying any kind of bull to his kids, man. I wasn't treating them ill. So I would think that any father, if he's with the mother and the children or not, I think they would respect that from the other man in the kid's life and the mother's life. Just showing them kids respect. Like I would want to be respected, not in the on any old hierarchical stuff. Like, I'm the adult here and I'm older and y'all gotta do it. No, just treat them with respect.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I think my biggest thing is finding my voice, because, like you said, every kid is different. Like my my two youngest, Amara and Nayeli, man, I can get my voice can get deeper with them. I can get kind of buck with them. They're not gonna be in their feelings as much. They're a little tougher, a little rough around the edges. Like they're the ones that like to fight and play around and jump off stuff and beat each other up. Like they got that. But two oldest, Morgan and Amelia, they're a little softer. They're a little softer,
A little more
and that
sensitive.
voice, they're more sensitive, and that voice gets them sometimes. Sometimes I don't get the reaction or get the understanding that I want because they too focused on how I come off or how I said it.
Yeah.
And so really, like we just talked about how our kids are different. So really, for me, the biggest thing, and I say a struggle, it's not like I'm not respecting her or anything like that, but it's just finding my voice that, that she understands that. I'm not necessarily mad or I'm just trying to direct you. And sometimes when you do mess up, I'm not, I don't hate you or anything like that. So just figuring that part out.
And it takes time, man. It takes time because there's separate relationships. But one of the things I think is important is, especially for a guy who has a bunch of daughters, such as yourself, is taking them on dates. Take each one of them on a date, just you and them. Regular dates. Regular just one-on-ones. Let's get to know each other. I think that helps, having those separate relationships.
Yeah, that's crazy how you said that, because we just said that we'll do that with them. We just started talking about that. Because my oldest was with her mom and my wife. They were there together for like 6 years, just them two. And so even now, and then she's the only child. All my kids had siblings. They always know their siblings and stuff like that. So they used to that. And she's not. She's used to being by herself, just her and mama. And so really just breaking down that barrier. So we talked about that. And so I'm glad you said that. It really just, confirmed that I really need to do that and just have that and just learn her for who she is and not have my own expectations. Oh, that's man. Right. With marriage too, boy, I had to figure out not stop having expectations. You can't have expectations. Then when you don't reach your expectation, now you upset. Or now I'm upset. But then she never agreed to that expectation. You can't just put that on her. So
that's right. That's right. And how old is she? She's a baby still.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think we have to have some expectations, but like you're gonna do your best, child. But they're children, so they're learning. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think we have to accept them for whatever they give us and just try to help shape them gently, kindly, slowly. Because patience. I think patience, bro. There it is. Patience. We have to be patient with them. It's almost like the political process, in a sense. It's a slow moving vessel, the political process, and we just have to invest a little bit at a time. And in a sense, I think that's how it is with children. Sometimes even with adults in our lives, we just have to keep investing and being patient.
Oh yeah, like we was texting. That's marriage right there.
Yeah,
be patient and keep investing. Cause I'm always gotta be patient with me, cause like we all come with our stuff, our baggage.
Yeah. That girl Erykah Badu sang that song "Bag Lady." I don't know if you ever heard that, but
I haven't heard the song. I know who you're talking about though, but I haven't heard that song before.
It's a heavy song. She's like, "Bag Lady, you got too much stuff. When they see you coming, they're gonna take off running from you. Because you got too much stuff, and it ain't what's in your bag, but it's that bag. You got all those emotions and scars and expectations and stuff. So, going back to something I said earlier, which is to be aware, and something you shared, which was being willing, being open. So we have to be aware of our own baggage, and then we have to be willing to seek feedback about how whatever I'm doing is impacting you, the environment, my partner, whatever, and be open to hearing that, because sometimes we hear negative stuff or things people have to tell us about how we're impacting them, and we get defensive and we don't want to hear that, and now they don't love us and all this other stuff, so.
Man, you got to be able to take constructive criticism. Otherwise, you become prideful if you don't. All this kind of stuff, man. So I definitely agree with you. You gotta be able to self-reflect and look at yourself and know that you ain't perfect.
Yeah,
you're not perfect, and it ain't always the other person's fault.
Yeah, most of the time it's half and half, a 60-40 or
Mhm.
something. We always got something to do in it. But I'm thinking in that regard too, like with what you're doing here with the Father's podcast, I think what would be a great addition maybe to this or just in general is to have like process groups for fathers, you know, where men can just come and sit down and talk about whatever it is that they struggle with about being a father, or whatever they want to celebrate about being a father. But having father groups, typically men don't get together and talk, and when we do get together, it's either we're griping, we're complaining, we're smoking, we're drinking, but we
Mhm.
don't see anything when men are just coming together to celebrate each other and to nourish each other, and nurture each other, you know.
No, that's real. I definitely want to get to a place that we have panels up here and just really just chopping it up and an open room, maybe when things start to get rolling. But I do have that men's ministry, and that's what my goal with that. Through the church that I go to,
Mhm,
that we all the men get together and we just kind of go over the
mhm,
word and we really just express yourself. I do bi-weekly check-ins so that
mhm, mhm.
everybody can get on and just talk about like things we can't share with our wives, things that we
Yeah.
don't feel comfortable. Sometimes you got to talk to another
Mhm.
man about because sometimes they don't understand. Our kids not going
Yeah,
to understand. Sometimes
yeah,
coworkers, you don't trust them, so
yeah.
we don't want to delve into your life, your personal life like that. So
Right,
that is
right,
my
right.
goal.
Yeah,
And I look forward to continuing to develop that. And I think this podcast is going to be a platform used for that as well.
that'll be dope, man. One of the things I think about though is how about those men who might learn about your group or learn about your gathering, but they're not into the word, they're not into the Bible, they're not into the church or whatever. So because of that, they might feel ostracized. So how do you include those type of men, or are they not welcome? You know what I'm saying? And so
Oh
that's
yeah, of course. Yeah, of course they're welcome. I think for me, the word is the foundation. But when Jesus Christ came, he came to save the lost, not the people that are already healed. So those people, you got to come in, like you talked about, even with our own kids, we got to come with love, man, understanding.
Mhm,
I'm not coming there and trying to change you. You come in
mhm,
here as a man, you come chop it up. Tell me
mhm,
what's going on. And my foundational principles are the gospel.
mhm,
So I'm going to use those, but I'm
mhm.
not, if you're not critical, you can preach over the head like, bro, you can't be here. Like, nah, man, you're a man just like me. I was
Right.
where you were. Like, I
Yeah.
think a lot of times, and sometimes people get, pushed away by believers, people that believe in
Mhm,
Jesus Christ, like,
mhm.
because they forget where they came from. Like, I ain't
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah.
I ain't forget. I had 3 kids before I was married. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was doing my thing. I was out
Yeah.
there. Like,
Yeah.
I ain't forget, and I don't forget what God brought me through. So,
Yeah.
nah, you're welcome, and this is a place for men, but my foundation is Christ, so you're gonna get that
Mhm,
too. But
mhm,
whether you turn that did today or next year or 2 years, you're still welcome. Because it's all
mhm,
about giving men a safe space. That's what this podcast is about, man. A safe space. It's a safe
mhm.
space for men to talk. Because man, we got to, because we have so much stuff
Absolutely.
bottled up. So
Uh-huh.
much stuff bottled up. We don't know our emotions. Like tell
Mhm,
you about that dude, Jason Wilson. He was talking about how we are like an 8 box of crayons and women are like a 64 box of crayons.
yeah.
There's a bunch of emotions that they have. And like
Yeah.
we only have 8 that we know how to use, but
Mhm.
we have 64. We still know the rest of them. And
Exactly.
when our wives trying to communicate with us with the violet and we got purple, it's like we missing it because we
Mhm.
ain't tapped into all our emotions. So man, it's
Absolutely.
important for us to do that. And I think having groups like that, it's in this podcast. That's what it's for. That's what it's about.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, I focused on like with my studies, how does emotional intelligence help us
Hmm.
make better decisions? Because
Hmm.
once you start tapping into that emotional intelligence, then you start unearthing all those other crayons in your box and start realizing, man, yeah, I got more than just 8 colors. You know, I got 60. How many? Oh, whoa, And then we can be fully human, I think, when we start to express ourselves fully and when we start to look at the full gamut of who we are and what makes us who we are.
Right. I used to always joke. I didn't know I could cry until I had a daughter. I was like that
Um,
unboxing emotion right there.
yeah.
But have you thought about writing a book about that? I know you got one book out already.
Man, I got 4 books out, man.
You have 4 books out? I didn't even know you wrote any more.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I got but I've been thinking about um revising my first book, Prison to Promise,
Hmm.
which is a semi autobiography of my experiences leading up to my incarceration and shortly thereafter. But I also wrote a book called the Journey Beyond, which is a reentry publication for people returning back to the community post incarceration. I wrote a book called Waleedism, which is a book of poetry and
Oh, I
prose,
didn't
my
know
own
that.
personal poetry and prose. And then I wrote a book of short stories called Reclaiming Freedom, short stories of redemption and renewal. And all my books can be found on Amazon, you know. And then not just the books, I've also co-authored quite a number of research papers, mostly around health and mass incarceration. So I've written quite a bit over the years.
Man, you you popped up my head. I knew about wild leaders and I forgot about that, but I didn't know you did the other one, man. You big time. Big
Nah,
time.
nah, I'm small Paul, man, small Paul. But
That's awesome though, man.
oh, thanks, man. But I think writing is important. Um, it's a way of expressing ourselves. It's a way of getting some of our emotions out. It's another medium of meeting people or reaching people,
Mhm.
because not everybody's going to listen to a podcast or have access to a podcast. It was really I started writing Q as a way of just getting my story into the penitentiaries, because again, that those are my people. Some people got people who are homeless. Some people got people who are in the religious institutions or in the hospitals or whatever. My people are people who are inside prisons and jails, and those are the people I want to reach. And so I figured writing my books was a good way of sharing my voice with them.
Nah, it's a great way. Like you said. And it's like I write poetry when I'm upset, when I
Mhm.
or when I'm just feeling have a lot of emotions I don't know how to even talk about. I write it out. So it's definitely beautiful, man. And definitely gonna have to send me all those links. I'll make sure I put that in there for you. So everybody can follow you where you at. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
even just like you say, your people, you also got a podcast for
yeah.
your people that you want to go through the system as well, correct?
Indeed, Y equals self, and Y equals self stands for YES. But yeah, I have a podcast called Prison to Promise Podcast, and that's also the name of one of my books, Prison to Promise. But the podcast is on pretty much every platform that carries a podcast, but it's also inside the North Carolina prison system. It's inside the Ohio State prison system, and I always forget the other state. I got it like in 3 states right now when I'm trying to get it inside other state systems, but they don't have all of my podcasts. Like they'll get like maybe 30 podcasts and they'll upload them onto their server and they'll rock those out for a year or two, and then they'll hit me up and say, look, we want to get some more podcasts from you.
So what episode I know you just released one or you're about to
Yeah.
release one. What episode
Mhm.
is that?
Man, I lost count, Q. I didn't, that's the one thing I didn't do is put numbers on my podcasts. But this has to be about episode 98 or 99 that I'm dropping on the 27th of this month. Um, Last year and the year before, I think last year was my first year, 2024. I did a podcast, maybe 23 also. But at any rate, I was doing one podcast a week, So I banged out like a load of podcasts, but I was burnt out. So I took like this past summer, I just took it off. I was like, I'm not doing nothing but thinking about it, but that's it. So now in 2025, I've released two. I released one in January. Actually, I'm about to release my second one for 2025 here in February, and I got a bunch of them lined up, and I'm just gonna drop like one a month.
Calm it down a little bit so you don't feel like it's such a burden. Sometimes it can be a burden, When you try,
Yeah.
like you say, you try to bang them out once a week, you gotta edit, you gotta do that, da 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 da. I was doing it once a week, then I went to the bi-weekly. And I took a
Yeah.
couple breaks myself, just like with work and stuff like that, and then
Yeah.
marriage, all that kind of stuff, preparing
Yeah.
for that. I had to take breaks. You know, you overload yourself, man. You got to be able to rest.
Right. Or else you're no good for yourself or anyone else. But,
Mm-hmm.
people keep hitting me up like, look, I want to be on your podcast. So I'm like, I got to do it. I got to do it because these are stories, man, that other people need to hear. And then folks need an outlet. And those of us who've been impacted by the criminal legal system, those of us who've been to prison, we have to validate each other, because if we wait for the general society to validate us, we'll continue to get marginalized, ostracized, and ignored.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people all the time, some of the most brilliant people I've met, some of the most insightful people I've ever met have been those brothers spending the yard in the penitentiaries. Those brothers in the visiting rooms when I go inside the penitentiaries. Those are some of the most capable and brilliant people. They just haven't had opportunities like many of us do. You know.
And that's similar to like sports. They're like LeBron's the best or Michael Jordan's the best. I said there's people out there that never got a chance to shine, that probably dogged them.
Yeah.
But that's just all we know. Or like the most beautiful woman, like they say Beyonce. They're like, nah, I mean, there's women out there that you just don't know that's a lot more beautiful or can sing so much better. And
Yeah.
I think when people get put on a pedestal, they don't realize that there's other people out there. They just haven't had the opportunity. I
Right.
think your
Right.
podcast allows that to be shown, and just your
Yeah.
work in general allows that to be made known, because people just have a limited and a narrow-minded view of life. And I think when like readers like us and people that's experienced life is like, man, there's so much more out there. We just haven't. It's just it's been untouched. It's just still in the dark. Nobody knows.
And that's
Which is
why I
that's
boldly share
cool.
my story. That's why I boldly share my story. Let people know. Yeah, I was incarcerated. Yeah, as a child, I was sexually assaulted. Yeah, I've been bankrupt before. All these things, I let people know. So people don't think that, whatever they might think. But I let people know I'm human, and there's other humans just like us, and anybody can reach their best potential. If they just get the right opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's part of it anyway. But sometimes we
Yeah.
got to create those opportunities for ourselves. But I need people to know, look, man, the sky's the limit. And as you were talking, I was thinking about, how people think, whatever we see, whatever's on the pedestal is all that there is. I'm thinking like we live on Earth. And so, we think Earth is all that there is, but the galaxy is so vast. We don't know what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
There might be all kind of stuff out there. We have no idea.
That's real, man. That's real. And so you got anything you want to leave off for maybe fathers or people that been in the system, just to close us out, man? Just a word of encouragement, word of knowledge, anything.
Well, man, one of the things I was going to say just recently is, there's a lot of parents who are incarcerated, fathers and mothers. But if there was a word of wisdom um, that I could share with fathers who are listening, be they incarcerated or not, um, I would say is to just keep trying to do your best to respect yourself and to respect the people who are in your life, be they your children, their parent, whoever. But just keep trying to do your best, because I think truly, man, I think all of us have been um, created in the image of love. We've been created in the image of wisdom, and sometimes just the things in life they impede us from understanding that love that we are. They impede us from understanding that wisdom that we are. But if we can get to a place where we can just do our best, I think we can impact and affect change in the lives of our children and in the lives of other adults that we engage with, man. So just do your best, man, and be love.
Mm-hmm. And stop comparing.
Oh, that'll kill you. That'll kill
Because
you
your
all.
best looks different from somebody else's.
Absolutely, yo. That is so true, cuz so many people are always comparing themselves because they riding a bicycle and somebody else got a motorcycle. It's like, nah, man.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the person who ain't got no feet, who ain't got no legs, can't even get on a motorcycle or a bicycle. Stop comparing yourself. And it makes me think about this song, man, when I was a kid, the old gospel song, man. And the chorus says, my soul looks back and wonder how I got over. How I got over. And so I think we have to continue to just press forward, do the best that we can, and we can get through, over, under, around, whatever the obstacles or impediments are. But we just got to keep going. So keep going. If you hear me, keep going. Don't stop. Bob Marley sang in one of his songs, never give up the fight. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. So don't give up. Keep going and be loved.
Amen. I love it. And like Tyler Quali, a beautiful struggle, right? It's a beautiful struggle.
Absolutely. It sure is, yo. Well, we just got to stay in it. Got to stay in it. Because if we don't stay in it, then, we're not going to get what we deserve. And, you've been around for a little while. Life ain't always a bowl of cherries. It's more hard work than anything. But, it's through the struggle, through that beautiful struggle, that we become more capable, that we become more wise, that we become more strong. And so that's the beauty. It's like the journey, It's like I've traveled various places, man, and I've been on different parts of the globe, and getting there is great, man. But sometimes it's the experience of getting there, not just being there, but the experience of traveling and all that we see in the process and all that we learn and all the people we meet. I think that sometimes that's where a lot of the learning takes place.
You ain't never lie. Hey, this is episode 106. Today we had Dr. Craig Waleed, the one and only. Hope everybody stay blessed.
Stay up, y'all.